Today I'll be explaining how a split unit does work. This is the outer unit of the split inverter unit. Inside this unit have a compressor, a fan and a condenser coil. So the purpose of the compressor is to actually is like the heart of the system is to pump refrigerant through the system, and how that is operate is the when the when the refrigerant return, so as the refrigerant makes it through these ways through the system, it is returned back into the compressor. It is returned back into the compressor as a low temperature, low pressure vapor. And what the compressor does, it does compressorize the refrigerant and turn it into high temperature, high pressure vapor. And the vapor does make its way through the condenser coil. And as it makes its way through the condenser coil, it does do a conversion into vapor into liquid. And also it does a subcooling cycle. Subcooling meaning it enter at one temperature and exit at a lower temperature than it enter. So let's say it enter at 80 degrees. Let's say it enter the condenser coil at 80 degrees. It leave the condenser coil at a lower degrees than it enter as. So that's what we call subcooling. So let's say it enter at 80 degrees, it leave the condenser coil at 70 degrees. Also the purpose of the fan is to actually cool down the coils while the refrigerant pass through the coils. Also this unit use a refrigerant of R410A, that's the refrigerant specially for this unit. So as the refrigerant pass through the condenser coil and as it exit the coil, it exits the coil as a liquid state and it enter a filter dryer. Now I don't have the filter dryer to show you, but the purpose of the filter dryer is to, let's say, take the moist out of the system or any particle in the system. That's the purpose of the filter dryer. So I'll be going inside to show you the indoor unit and also to continue the refrigerant process of the liquid refrigerant as it makes its way inside the indoor unit. So as the refrigerant makes its way through inside the indoor unit, inside this indoor unit have a evaporator coil. It also have a fan and it also have expansion valve. So as the refrigerant leave the filter dryer, it make its way into the expansion valve. So the purpose of the expansion valve is to lower the pressure and lower the temperature in the unit. So inside the expansion valve have a thin line, and when the refrigerant pass through the thin line, that's when it is lower the pressure and lower the temperature in the unit. So let's say it enter the expansion valve at, let's say, 70 degrees. It exit the expansion valve, let's say, at 50 degrees. So it actually lowering the pressure and lowering the temperature. So as the refrigerant exit the expansion valve, it make its way through the coils in this unit. The coils in this unit is called evaporator coil, and while the refrigerant pass through the coil, it also do a conversion also. So it turn in from liquid into vapor. As it making its way through the evaporator coil, it do a subheating cycle. A subheating cycle meaning that it enter at one temperature and leave at a higher temperature as it exit, it leave a higher temperature. So let's say it enter the evaporator coil at, let's say 45 degrees. It enter the evaporator coil. It exit the evaporator coil, let's say at a 55 degrees. So the temperature actually get higher than it enter. So let's say the refrigerant pass through the evaporator coil. As the refrigerant pass through the evaporator coil, the fan in this unit does pull the air from inside, and the air that's passed through the evaporator coil and then come through this vent here, and that's how it is cool inside. So the coil is actually be cool, and when the air pass through the coil and then this and the fan push it out, it is be cooler than it exit. So that's how inside your holders be cool, because of the evaporator coils and the fan passing through the coils. And so when the refrigerant make a conversion cycle to also, so when it turn from a liquid to a vapor state, that's when the vapor does go back through outside the copper line and then go back into the compressor, and that's when the cycle is repeat again. So that's how a refrigerant cycle does work.